Hello, everybody. My name is Kimberly Cohen, and I'm here with Exec Edge podcast. I am joined today by LaMont Leavitt, and he is currently the CEO at Innov Health. Lamont's a veteran in the medical coding, billing, and reimbursement industry. He's the founder of several healthcare related data and compliance companies. And his expertise lies in healthcare data analytics, medical compliance, SaaS leadership, and business scaling. He's also a podcaster, host, and we're really happy to have him here today. So, welcome, Lamont.
Kimberly, thank you so much for having me on your show.
You're welcome. Awesome. Well, I'd love to know a little bit about your background, and then we will jump into sort of what you're doing today, and then we'll finish off our discussion with what the future work looks like for you. So, tell me a little bit about how you got to where you're at today.
Well, the whole journey, I'll really summarize quickly. I'm a tech head for sure. I grew up as a programmer way back in the day, back in the 80s, working for an oil company, but late 80s. But then I was at Novell, that whole networking of the 90s, 2000s. That was a great ride through that tech era. All the networking that went on in that world, kind of post mainframe, blow up. Then after that, decided to move on and get into the healthcare space. And at the time, my dad had a small business called Cairo Code, and from that, I just said to him, "Well, this is great, but let's take this concept of medical healthcare code, I think with coding, billing, and auditing, and take that out." On the web and get past just the whole book mentality. And that was in the 2007, 2008. That was the first big product launch was Find a Code. And then after that, we developed at the request of the insurance companies a product called HEC Coder for insurance companies. That's the whole HEC coding. Then we developed a few other apps and whatnot in that space with QPro and some other things. But we had in 2023 an acquisition acquired MetaBrieve for medical abbreviations to add all that rich abbreviation content into Find a Code and HEC Coder, as well as its own standalone website. Then after that, the whole AI thing really got taking off, and we started playing with Novia Scribe, and which we put together. And this year is kind of exciting because we really went down this track of what's called we call her Amy. That's our new AI agent. We've got so much data, over 1.5 million pages of curated content that's good. We're building for almost 2 decades, and we're using AI to really dive into that data and come back with good, right answers. And that's the short story, and we're excited to be launching that here shortly.
Yeah, that's exciting. So, what's your launch date?
It'll be in May. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, it's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me today because I'm sure
Uh,
you're in crunch mode.
we're in we're in a good place. In fact, by the time someone listens to this, it'll probably maybe already be out there or
Oh,
get with
amazing.
us.
Okay, great.
But anyway, love to tell you more about our journey as we dive into more of the detail of how we've used AI.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd definitely be interested just to start. I know that you're in the healthcare space, and so there's always a lot of concern about HIPAA compliance and AI, you know, hallucinating, and there's points of failure that can happen within AI. There's also having self-contained places, instances, if you will, where that information can live, and making sure that nothing can penetrate that versus having personal information, health information out in the general GPTs. So how do you manage that for your companies?
Well, everyone has a different PHI requirement, right? Based on the nature of their business. For us, we're very strong in the whole all the information around what has to happen with the coding, billing, and auditing. We don't have as much of a requirement for all the PHI requirements with the because we're not really like an EMR or EHR where we're dealing with that patient data. When that does come into play, there are different rules. Let's say if you were a scribe, if you were making a scribe, there's certain lengths of time you're allowed to have that data uh, available, and then it needs to go away if you're not when storing the data. Also, at the back end, if you're using Amazon Cloud or whatever you're using, yeah, make sure you're using a good back end solution that that protects that too. If you're into the PHI data, and there's different clouds that have different levels of security. You need to make sure you're aware of what you're doing. I think there's been a lot of history of people. AI is interesting because when it first came out, a lot of people were excited about it, and because they could get answers to their questions, whether they're
Mhm.
using, whether it's Grok or Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT or whatever,
Sure.
perplexity, that you want to get good answers. Well, a good answer is only as good as the source data.
Right.
And we've all heard stories about, hallucinations and when it makes up data, it wants to give you an answer. AI typically does. So you gotta put when you're starting to make your own, you need to put guardrails on it and
Right.
make sure you help it know that, "No, if you don't know, I don't need a creative answer."
Yeah.
And you can kinda tell when you use the over the counter type. It's very helpful most of the time. In our world, with AI, when you just have to be right is kind of our model
Mhm.
we've had some of our subject matter experts say, well, they'll go out and use an over the counter, kind of like medication, your AI that's out there, and they're pretty sure that they got back most of the right answer.
Oh, sorry.
But then they go check inside our database and try to figure out, okay, is that really the right answer? Because I know Find Code's going to give me the right answer. So okay, that was good. Then they feel comfortable. So if they're still wanting to go back to that, what they know is a good source of truth, they want to come back to our product. So it just made a lot of sense to really come up with a solution for not having to make that double check. So, and the other thing with AI is interesting that we've learned is sometimes you'll have situations where does your AI deal with multiple truths? What is true? Is what the government say? If the government says one thing, what's what truth is, and maybe the American Medical Association says no, truth is something else. Or if you frame it differently or add these certain modifiers as a coder, builder, or auditor, you want to see that perspective of okay, this is true and this is true under these different scenarios. And so if your AI doesn't come back with it is insistent on no, the only right answer is from this entity, then that's broken too. You want it to be smart enough to give you back the right answers and let you, as the human,
Right.
determine, okay, in my scenario, what is the right truth? And so
Mhm.
that's when it really gets into the depth of solving some really cool things.
Right. And how do you get it to I mean we've all heard about, we talk about AI slop and things like that and like you said it hallucinates and it also is very agreeable. Like my chat GPT thinks I'm a genius. Yeah, that's a great business idea. You should 100% do that. But what I do is I have it cite multiple sources to back up what it's saying and now and I've got prompts that are set in stone so that it writes at a certain level. It writes, in a particular style so that it's not indicative of AI writing, but the citing of the sources and then double checking proactively sort of forces it into that. And then I always ask it if it has any questions. And then it goes into its spiel. It still thinks I'm a genius, but it had to work a little bit harder now to do the, kind of that single function type of stuff. So
Yeah.
what's your secret of in terms of getting those types of answers so that you can actually trust but verify and reduce the amount of sleuthing that you have to do after you get the answer from your GPT of choice?
It's definitely a process. I mean, we're all refining this as we go with the guardrails, and we've actually, in our case, we've actually pulled in a lot of questions from different experts that have been asked, and say, okay, what does a subject matter expert, what would they come back with as a right answer, and
Right.
then start to get more into the vectorization or vectorizing of the data to where it can start thinking and learning. And I think part of the AI is to get it to where it learns from what you're trying to build. And so that's important too. And I mean, it's like software. How many times has a software company thought, hey, I can slap that together in 3 to 6 months and it's all fixed and solved? That's not
Right.
what software is. An evolving Kaizen type thing, just like it's been for decades. Same with AI. We're going to keep refining, keep making it better, and try to get to that. What's 100% right.
Right.
Yeah, it's a process, but if you enjoy software and solving that next problem and putting the the guardrails in place and helping it arrive at what right answers are, it can become smart for the industry you're working on.
For sure. And there aren't a lot of guardrails right now. I mean, we're seeing
Yeah.
this is the wild, wild west. This is, the AI version of the industrial revolution. And since we don't know what we don't know, and then there's intelligence that's grown beyond just the input output situations. I've seen where people are taking, Claude and OpenClaw and creating things where it's actually I saw a scenario where someone gave a budget to their OpenClaw application and said, "Here's, a budget of like $5,000. Go build me a business." And the AI application went and purchased a class for itself to learn how to do the thing that it needed to do in order to build the business, and then bought its own. I think it was some sort of box or something like that, some sort of server, some sort of service to actually create that business and ordered it for him itself, which is crazy. I'm personifying it by giving it pronouns.
Yeah, oh, yeah, well, it is kinda crazy.
Yeah. It's actually, I mean, it is really, it's learning from itself now. There's another one where there was created, I think it was also OpenClaw, created its own social network like Facebook, but only for AIs, only for
Yeah,
AI.
isn't
It's
that nuts?
yeah,
So that then the different AIs can learn from each other,
right.
and develop their own network.
Right, exactly. I just need them to not if they could wipe out everyone's debt, that would be amazing. No more debt.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah,
Raise everyone's credit scores.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
more seriously, like with your extensive background in healthcare compliance, how do you see AI fundamentally changing the landscape of medical billing in the next 5 years? What does that look like to you?
What I think we're gonna see is, a lot of subject matter experts trying to keeping doing what they're doing, but trying to use AI to do a lot of the manual functions that they used to do. And I think a lot of people that were maybe in a very structured box of doing X, Y, Z in a certain order,
Yeah.
they'll need to mature and become stronger, not just coders, but coders with auditing skills and being able to dynamically work with insurance companies and with our hospital. So basically, they'll be working smarter because they'll have stronger tools, and at the insurance companies at the other end, they're going to have stronger tools. So I'm hoping, what I'm anticipating is there'll be better communication going back and forth. Healthcare as a whole has a lot of friction in it, and I think what AI is going to do is going to help remove a lot of that friction,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of problems that no one even wanted to try to solve because it didn't make financial sense to solve it.
Right.
But I think AI is going to really uh, help with that, to where we're going to see more problems being solved that we wouldn't have otherwise attacked. So that's gives me a lot of a lot of comfort that way. The fear of losing job, I go back to, whether it's 10 years ago or 20 or 30 years ago, whenever there's a big shift, a lot of people that are or that fear change, get nervous and just kind of curl up a ball and don't want to deal with the change. This is something, it's a Pandora's box thing, it's out of the box.
Right.
So at this point, you got to learn how to interact with it, deal with it, and grow and not fear the change.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we've got, different generations in the workplace now, that have, historically maybe resisted change, resisted learning new technology, or I mean, with my generation, I'm Gen X, we've had to learn all the things you were talking about when you started your career in the 80s. I'm a little tiny bit behind you, but not much. I learned to program BASIC on a Commodore 64 in like the early
Nice.
20 go to 10. So and then I was, the webmaster for the largest family owned grocery chain in North America, in the US. And,
That's good though. Tech doesn't scare you. That's a good thing
yes,
because you've dealt
exactly.
with different technological evolutions along the way.
We've
So
had
this is just another one.
Exactly, and all I can think about, I'm kind of a corporate escapee at the moment, which is lovely, is how it is that I could have systematized my job even further to go further and sell more and have more custom conversations with people in a much more efficient manner in my job. And I just think to myself, gosh, if anybody's resisting this in the roles that I've had, that's just going to hold you back. Why would you not want to sell more
Yeah.
software, more cybersecurity solutions? Why would you not want to have more meetings, have more outreach, things like that? And that just goes for one segment of corporate America that I've been in. And I think about, how HR and staffing, talent acquisition can up their game as well with AI. I mean, these are the things that I ideate on all day long. And so, in terms of healthcare, there's a lot of that, the automation that can be done on the side that you're on. What about on the side of the patient? What do you think in terms of communicating with the healthcare provider, the insurance company, whomever? How can AI help the patient, get where they need to go in terms of their billing, their maybe, disputing things, stuff like that? How can that process and customer experience be improved with AI as you get down the road? And is your company addressing that kind of thing as well?
Yeah, before I get into that, I just wanted to say, as you're developing AI applications or whatever you're doing, recognize that there's a lot of change and it happens fast,
A lot,
and it's happening faster than past revolutions,
for sure.
technical revolutions. So I think the thing some people do is they over worry about learning. Oh, now this week this is the best thing. Now this next week this is the next best thing. You
Mm.
need to discipline yourself to execute on something
Yep.
to start to learn, and don't get so caught up in the learning process that you don't actually execute. And so that's just, if you know your tendency to want to always be educating and learning, and you don't want to start until you know everything,
Mhm.
you just
You never will.
that's not going to work with this revolution. That's not going to work. You got to dive in with both feet and get your hands dirty and know that you're going to make some mistakes along the way in that as you're learning. Oh, that's right. That's why how that works. But just yeah, be comfortable with the chaos. Be comfortable with the chaos is what I would say.
I
But
would wholly agree with you on that.
as far as the patients go, it's a little tricky with patients because think about the demographics of who the patient is. You have
Mhm.
children, you have parents, you have middle-aged people, you have older people, and they're all comfortable with different levels of technology. Generally the older the person, I mean, there's still a lot that struggle with any sort of tech or even phones. So that
Mhm.
makes it challenging. And I think you have to start with, okay, who's most comfortable working with that, and then you work into the other demographics that'll be a little more tricky to deal with. And maybe they'll need more human interaction from an AI agent that's talking to them, they visually see and they can visually communicate with. Those kinds of things is I think what maybe an older generation is used to. They're used to that personal interaction
Sure.
and talking. The younger you go, I think the easier it is to get them to adopt and deal with technology. So
Mhm.
anyone that's 20 to is in pretty good shape on technically being able to deal with where we're at. But even in those demographics, you've still got resistant to change people.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And so my original question was, how are you all, or are you trying to create ease of use on the user side of things, on the patient side? I'm
Yeah, most of our products are very much in the medical space, servicing the clinics, the back end content, interaction between insurance companies, hospitals, healthcare providers, all that kind of stuff. So
connected.
that's the market we're in currently.
Mhm.
Um, there are people that deal with patient-facing stuff. Currently, healthcare market's big enough. We're just tackling certain segments of it right now,
Got it. Yep, that makes sense.
more in the
Perfect.
back end.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, we'll leave that to others to deal with. So, what are you seeing in the next year and a half for your business in terms of growth, goals, and how technology factors into that?
Yeah, we're gonna keep improving our existing products. We're gonna be obviously bringing on a new AI agent. We're also learning at the back end different hospitals, insurance companies, clinics, they all have different struggles, and we're trying to tackle some of those. A lot of things, there's a lot of things you can solve with software that you really don't know that they're problems
Huh.
until you really get to know your customer. And a lot of times the customer is doing a big, hard, manual, arduous process, and that's just part of how they do their job, but they don't even see you as a vendor that could solve that for them. I
Right.
think as vendors, we need to be a little more having those contextual conversations with the customers and let them just open up about, oh man, I've got to do this and do this and this and this, but listen with the intent of how can I solve your problem? What can I do as a company to solve your problems? And sometimes it's just taking your existing product and maybe tweaking it a little bit to meet their needs. So I think communicating with your customers, figuring out how you can help the most people through your software solutions, I think is how it needs to happen. And don't just assume that you know by sitting in your ivory tower or in your, you put whiteboards in the wall and throw spaghetti on it and hope it sticks. Your customers will tell you what they need. You just have to listen.
Right.
And as long as you don't lose that desire to solve their problems, your company will find a way to keep growing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Any parting thoughts, words of wisdom for those who are working in this space?
Number 1, I would say, don't fear change. Number 2, embrace the reality of helping and serving others. Put people first and money will follow. And as long as and that as a kid, that was what my dad always said. Don't
Yeah.
worry about what you're gonna be, what you're gonna do, how you're gonna solve problems. If you're going about helping people, the money will follow. Find joy in helping others and don't make money your primary goal. Make that's a secondary goal. How can I help? How can I help Kimberly today? How can I help this potential customer today? And sometimes it's nothing more than you're just connecting them to someone else to solve their problem. You don't have to be
Exactly.
the source.
Yeah.
Those are probably the parting thoughts is just go about helping others and enjoy the ride of life, I would say.
That's sage advice. Lamont, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us on Exec Edge, powered by Uniqua AI. I thank you, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, Kimberly. Good to meet you.
Yeah.
See ya.